2023 수능특강 영어 chapters 1 through 8. Let's read along. Chapter 1. Dear Mr. Bernstein, my name is Thomas Cobb, the Marketing Director of Calvary Hospital. Our hospital is planning to hold a charity concert on September 18th in the main hall of our hospital. We expect it to be helpful in raising money to cover the medical costs of those in need. To make the concert more special, we want to invite you for the opening of the concert. Your reputation as a pianist is well known, and everyone will be very happy to see your performance. Beautiful piano melodies will help create an enjoyable experience for the audience. We look forward to your positive reply. Sincerely, Thomas A. Cobb. Dear Mr. Rodney, it was a pleasure seeing you at the last meeting of the Business After Hours Club, or BAHC. The BAHC is one of the most popular programs at the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce, and we are always happy to welcome newcomers to our meetings. As you may know, the BAHC was created to provide a relaxed social atmosphere for our members to connect with other professionals in the area. In addition to the BAHC, we have many other exciting programs planned for our membership in 2022. Being a Chamber of Commerce member also comes with many other benefits. If you have any questions about these benefits or membership in general, please visit www.jacksonvillechamber.com. The Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce would love to have you as a member. I've enclosed an application form, and I hope to hear from you soon. Sincerely, Zoe Nelson, Program Manager. Dear valued guest, thank you for choosing White Castle Hotel for your stay in the beautiful city of Middlemount. Our commitment to service and guest satisfaction is our main concern. As part of our continued commitment to enhance our property and service, we are currently in the process of renovating the interior walls of rooms on one of our guest floors. As a result, there is some construction noise during the day, which we do our best to limit. The floor under renovation is blocked off for your safety. We apologize for any disruption this may cause to your stay and ask for your kind understanding. White Castle Hotel continually strives to provide guests with the most relaxing and comfortable stay. If you have any comments or concerns, please contact the front desk at extension number 0. Sincerely, White Castle Hotel Management and Staff. Number 3. Dear Miss Perkins, last week I mentioned to you that I am being promoted to Vice President at Western Medical Equipment Company. My replacement as the sales representative is Miss Andrea Carr. Andrea has been with Western for 4 years at our Oregon office. Andrea and I will be in your area on May 20th and 21st. We would like to take some time on one of those 2 evenings to have dinner together and talk to each other. I'm hoping that this will give you and Andrea the chance to get to know one another. Andrea is my hand-picked replacement. I know she will give your medical center the attention it deserves. I have little doubt that you will be pleased with her. I look forward to hearing from you to confirm our meeting. Best regards, Alice Krause, Sales Representative. Number 4. Broomfield Residential Collection Customers. During the ongoing pandemic, it is particularly important to dispose of personal waste properly for the safety of our community and our solid waste crews here in the city of Broomfield. For the added safety of our collection and disposal crews, we ask that you please bag all garbage before placing it in your secured and approved 32-gallon trash can. We will not collect garbage from tubs, barrels, or oversized containers. Garbage that is not bagged, either inside or outside of the trash can, will not be collected as defined in the city regulations. Please do your part in helping us by using a durable bag or double bagging your garbage, as this makes the bags less likely to tear or burst. We appreciate your assistance in this matter. Chapter 2. As Natalie was logging in to her first online counseling session, she wondered, how can I open my heart to the counselor through a computer screen? Since the counseling center was a long drive away, she knew that this would save her a lot of time. Natalie just wasn't sure if it would be as helpful as meeting her counselor in person. Once the session began, however, her concerns went away. She actually started thinking that it was much more convenient than expected. She felt as if the counselor were in the room with her. As the session closed, she told him with a smile, "I'll definitely see you online again." Number 1. The darkness of the old main building towered in front of me. Nothing moved, but I could feel eyes watching. "Hello?" I cried out to the stillness. "Is anyone there?" My voice trembled. I walked away from the hall and entered the shadows draping the building. Emptiness and darkness surrounded me. My footsteps echoed on the paths. A few times, slight movement at the corner of my vision made my head snap around. Shadows played tricks. More than once I thought I was a ghostly figure standing at a dark corner. My heart pounded, and I could feel myself shaking with fear. Yellow security lights glowed overhead. As I made my way to the stairs leading to the basement, the sense of being watched grew stronger. I knew something was down there. A dreadful feeling of horror crept over my heart, and I could feel a cold sweat coming on. I watched for shifting shapes within the shadows, but couldn't see anything. Number 2. I was at the ball, sitting, nervously waiting for somebody. Hoffner kept asking me to dance, and I kept refusing angrily every time. People were dancing and laughing happily all around, all dressed elegantly in fancy dresses. It was like a carnival party, but with a sort of dark atmosphere that wasn't pleasant at all. I was stuck, sitting in a corner with nobody around me. I felt uncomfortable, wanting to be somewhere else. My anxiety kept growing and growing, when suddenly, the man that I was longing for appeared. It was the farmer I had crashed into in the village. Feeling overjoyed, I felt as though everything around me had suddenly disappeared. He walked triumphantly towards me, bowed, and asked me for a dance. Number 3. It was morning as I stepped out into the fresh air under the veranda that went around the porch, yawning sleepily. The smell of fresh dew filled my nose as well as another scent, similar to vanilla, yet much more sweet, which came from the grass. Water dripped from the leaves above, falling on my head and refreshing my body and senses. I took a deep breath and started down the stairway. Getting to the bottom, I stepped lightly on the moist grass. It seemed that there had been a small rain shower, and the dim light and the water made the forest sparkle like it was covered with small crystals that twinkled in the morning light. Silence all around, and the sheer beauty made my heart and mind fly. I sat on the grass by the lake, watching the water and the fish, just letting myself slip away. Number 4. My first audition experience started with my first exposure to a cattle room, a place where all auditioners are sent to warm up together. As I warmed up for my audition in a large room with at least a dozen other piccoloists, I ran through the excerpt from the Semmermid Overture. This excerpt was not difficult for me, nor did I feel threatened by any of the players in the room. Actually, I'd practiced it hundreds of times, so I had faith that I could do well in the audition. But I messed up the first run-through. I played it again and made the same mistake. Instead of stopping and slowing the music down to correct the problem, I continued to play it in succession, getting more worked up and making the same mistake every time. When I finally gave in and slowed it down to clean it up, the damage had already been done. By the time I exited the room, I was a bundle of nerves and had set myself up for the worst audition experience I ever had. Chapter 3. Scientists have no special purpose on moral or ethical decisions. A climate scientist is no more qualified to comment on healthcare reform than a physicist is to judge the causes of bee colony collapse. The very features that create expertise in a specialized domain lead to ignorance in many others. In some cases, lay people, farmers, fishermen, patients, native peoples, may have relevant experiences that scientists can learn from. Indeed, in recent years, scientists have begun to recognize this. The Arctic Climate Impact Assessment includes observations gathered from local native groups. So our trust needs to be limited and focused. It needs to be very particular. Blind trust will get us into at least as much trouble as no trust at all. But without some degree of trust in our designated experts, the men and women who have devoted their lives to sorting out tough questions about the natural world we live in, we are paralyzed, in effect not knowing whether to make ready for the morning commute or not. Number 1. Remember that saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard? Regardless of talent level, if you work hard, you'll be a better musician. But working hard is not enough. My friend Charlie told me about his coworker, Tom, who worked extra hours each week, starting early and staying long after everyone else had left. A dedicated and industrious employee, you might think. Maybe not. Those extra hours Tom put in did nothing to increase his productivity because he went from one project to the next, never setting priorities or deadlines. Without concentrating his efforts on the important tasks, he often never completed them. He was busy doing too many things and in the wrong order. Charlie left the office each night thinking, "There's Tom, working long and long instead of long and hard." Goals direct your hard work. Number 2. For people of any age, the world is becoming increasingly linear, a word I'm using in its figurative rather than mathematical sense. Non-linear thinkers, including many artists, are feeling more marginalized as a result. As a society, it seems we take less time for art. In doing so, we may be missing out on something that is deeply valuable and important from our neurobiological standpoint. Artists recontextualize reality and offer visions that were previously invisible. Creativity engages the brain's daydreaming mode directly and stimulates the free flow and association of ideas, forging links between concepts and neural nodes that might not otherwise be made. In this way, engagement in art as either a creator or consumer helps us by hitting the reset button in our brains. Time stops. We contemplate. We reimagine our relationship to the world. Being creative means allowing the nonlinear to intrude on the linear and to exercise some control over the output. Number 3. Having expropriated resources from the natural world in order to fuel a rather temporary period of materialistic freedom, we must now restore no small measure of those resources and accept the limits and discipline inherent in that relationship. Until business does this, it will continue to be maladaptive and predatory. In order for free market capitalism to transform itself in the century to come, it must fully acknowledge that the brilliant monuments of its triumph cast the darkest of shadows. Whatever possibilities business once represented, whatever dreams and glories corporate success once offered, the time has come to acknowledge that business as we know it is over. Over because it failed in one critical and thoughtless way. It did not honor the various forms of life that secure and connect its own breath and skin and heart to the breath and skin and heart of our earth. Number 4. The philosopher as athlete of the mind. That is Nietzsche's greatest insight into the debates we see in Plato's dialogues between Socrates and all the pretenders to wisdom in Athens he questions, shames, and defeats in argument. Thus, to understand ancient Greek philosophy, it helps to look at the Olympics, and to understand the Olympics, it helps to look at ancient Greek philosophy. Wherever we turn in the Hellenic world, we see Greek pitted against Greek in the kind of competition epitomized by the Olympics. The Greek dream is to be the best, to be the first, to be the last man standing. The same competitive spirit that reveals itself on the race course and in the boxing arena comes in out Plato's dialogues. Socrates is literally the last man standing at the end of the all-night drinking contest in the symposium. Socrates, using his mental strength and agility to triumph over his opponents, is the distant descendant of the very physical heroes of Homer's Iliad. In Nietzsche's understanding, Plato's dialogues are the Olympics of philosophy. Number 5. Luxury ownership signals wealth, but, ironically, it is often the very wealthy who prefer to look cheap. Counter-signaling is when you go out of your way to show that you do not need to go out of your way. It has become almost a point of honor in Silicon Valley not to wear expensive clothes or suits, but rather jeans and trainers, which signals that you are more interested in tech than status. This style has been undoubtedly influenced by a social media executive with his famous hoodie and casual wear. Francesca Gino, a professor at Harvard Business School, has shown that counter-signaling by wearing atypical clothing leads to a higher regard in the right context. In one study, she asked the shop assistants working in high-end designer stores to rate two shoppers, one in gym clothes and the other in a dress and fur. The assistants were far more likely than the general public to think the gym clothes-wearing shopper would spend more and be in a position to buy the most expensive items in the boutique. They had learned from experience how the rich often counter-signal. Number 6. Relativity, as noted by the economist Robert H. Frank, is one of the fundamental principles in human economic behavior. In his book, Choosing the Right Pond, he makes the point that our economic decisions are guided by status, which is really a relativity issue. It explains why people would prefer to earn just $50,000 if their colleagues earned $25,000, rather than earn $100,000 if colleagues earned $250,000. We would prefer to have less so long as it is more than everyone else. We measure our success relative to others. One of the most surprising examples of this comes from an analysis of emotional reactions to winning Olympic medals. To even reach the Olympic Games should be considered an extraordinary achievement. And yet analysis has revealed that Olympians can sometimes experience disappointment even when they win a silver medal. The reason that the silver medalists are not happy is because they are comparing themselves to the winners. In contrast, the bronze medalists compare themselves to all the other competitors who did not get a medal, so they perceive themselves better off and happier. Relativity is how we judge our sense of achievement. It is better to be a big fish in a small pond than a big fish in a bigger pond. Number 7. Is it any wonder we love automation? By offering to reduce the amount of work we have to do, by promising to fill our lives with greater ease, comfort, and convenience, computers and other labor-saving technologies appeal to our eager but misguided desire for release from what we perceive as toil. In the workplace, automation's focus on enhancing speed and efficiency, a focus determined by the profit motive rather than by any particular concern for people's well-being, often has the effect of removing complexity from jobs, diminishing the challenge they present, and hence the engagement they promote. Automation can narrow people's responsibilities to the point that their jobs consist largely of monitoring a computer screen or entering data into prescribed fields. Even highly trained analysts are seeing their work restricted by decision support systems that turn the making of judgments into a data processing routine. The apps and other programs we use in our private lives have similar effects. By taking over difficult or time-consuming tasks, the software makes it even less likely that we'll engage in efforts that test our skills and give us a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. All too often, automation frees us from what makes us feel free. Number 8. In general, searching online for health information can be valid, eye-opening, educational, and even useful. While many doctors roll their eyes when they hear, "I did my research," from a patient, sometimes that research can be sound. If a patient has a rare disease and presents articles about it, many of us will be grateful that we were saved some extra work. But the web becomes entangled when sites angled with opinions, personal anecdotes, exaggeration, and false claims manipulate the navigator to believe what is posted. People also run into trouble when looking for information online based on preconceived notions. Here comes the curse of the original belief. If you believe that megadosing on vitamin C will prevent colds, you will seek out and easily find sites promoting this notion. If you think that juice cleanses are the way to better health and well-being, it's easy to find websites supporting this. If delaying vaccines is your cup of tea, online sources abound. If you're debating whether to eat only organic food, plenty of available information will support this. Chapter 4. Historically, the professions and society have engaged in a negotiating process intended to define the terms of their relationship. At the heart of this process is the tension between the profession's pursuit of autonomy and the public's demand for accountability. Society's granting of power and privilege to the professions is premised on their willingness and ability to contribute to social well-being and to conduct their affairs in a manner consistent with broader social values. It has long been recognized that the expertise and privileged position of professionals confer authority and power that could readily be used to advance their own interests at the expense of those they serve. As Edmund Burke observed 2 centuries ago, men are qualified for civil liberty in exact proportion to their disposition to put moral chains upon their own appetites. Autonomy has never been a one-way street and is never granted absolutely and irreversibly. Number 1. At some point, we all find ourselves suffering the consequences of a bad situation that we have put ourselves in. While we wish that we could simply erase it from our record, we, of course, can't do that. Many of us wrongly choose to quickly sweep it under the rug in an impatient attempt to move on. But you've heard the expression, haste makes waste. We usually want to rush and leave the difficulties that we've experienced in life behind us as quickly as possible, but that can make matters worse and lead to bigger problems. Every crisis has a fallout period, and the only way to recover from a crisis is to be mindful of the work that is going to take to make that happen. If our actions negatively affected other people, they may not be prepared to move on as quickly as we are. Number 2. Most coaches and athletes have a basic idea of what stress is, but they may not fully understand its complicated aspects. Stress is a substantial imbalance between what we believe is demanded of us, competitive demand, and what we perceive our capabilities to be for meeting those demands, personal control, for situations in which success is important. Thus, perceptions, not competitive demands themselves, determine the amount and nature of stress we experience. The premise of self-talk is that beliefs determine the impact of a competitive situation more than the situation itself does. Our thoughts are more responsible for our actions than are the situations we practice and compete in. When appraisal is positive, we view a tough opponent as a challenge, which enhances performance. But negative appraisals prompt us to view difficult situations as threats, which hurts performance. One athlete may view a stadium full of people as a great opportunity to show this crowd what I can do, while another may worry about how embarrassed I'll be messing up in front of this crowd. It's the same stadium full of people, but different reactions can lead either flow or choking. Number 3. On a camping trip, my friends and I were filling our water bottles at a stream. We kept losing the bottles due to the powerful force of the water in the stream. One person wanted to go in the water and walk across the stream. However, the water was up to the middle of our thighs, and we could have easily been thrown by the force of the water currents and been severely injured. This is exactly what happens with excessive attachment to family. We are helplessly carried away by the force of attachment and are battered on the rocks as the water tosses us downstream. If we are wise, we will see the danger and won't put ourselves in that situation. Similarly, when we see the uncontrollable nature of attachment and its outcomes in our lives, we remain friendly and kind to others, but don't let our mind get hopelessly caught in the current of clinging. Number 4. When the work of engineers is understood to be part of a socio-technical system, the traditional notion of engineering expertise is somewhat disrupted. While engineering expertise traditionally has been focused on the so-called technical aspects of their work, a focus on socio-technical systems suggests that engineering undertakings involve much more than statistics, measurements, and equations. Successful engineering requires an understanding of the existing artifactual and social world in which devices and machines will have to fit. Engineering knowledge must fit together with other forms of knowledge. Engineering expertise is not simply in the technical, but in integrating the technical with many other kinds of knowledge. Engineers are experts because they have the ability to design products that take into account and mesh with a complex world of people, relationships, institutions, and artifacts. When engineers keep in mind the values and politics that are promoted or weakened by their creations, they are more likely to have the effects they intend. Number 5. We can no longer afford to see law as a series of dry and dusty legal codes that, in the face of evolving technology, are already outdated by the time the laws are printed. That vision of law is just going to have to go. We must learn to see the discipline of law as a method for adapting to technological change, not a series of presently existing rules. We must attend to change in law, rather than its present state. It's like driving a car. Many people look at the speedometer to see how fast they are going. That's looking at the law as it is now. But we need to be looking at how fast we are accelerating. That's a different way to look at law, and one that is necessary if law is to keep pace with technology. Number 6. Good science communication requires attention to both the science and the presentation. If the science is not good, it does not matter how well you dress it up. It is still not good science. If the science is good, but it is not presented well, it loses its power and impact. In the worst-case scenario, this becomes an indulgent hobby for the self-edification of the scientist and is not used to build the body of knowledge. The goal is to end up with good science that is effectively communicated. In general practice, the vast majority of scientific effort is in the collection and analysis of data. With little time or resources devoted to the communication of science. Rather than science communication being an afterthought, it is essential to factor in the time and resources that are needed for developing a quality communication product. Number 7. An accurate conceptualization of the obesity epidemic is that people are responding to the forces in their environment rather than lacking in willpower and self-control. A metaphor that more truly captures the phenomenon is the tsunami. The environmental tsunami of cues and stimuli artificially make people hungry and lead them to unintentionally overconsume and to remain excessively sedentary. The societal response to the tsunami has been to provide swimming lessons and cheerleaders. The response has clearly not been proportional to the threat. People cannot change their responses to cues they do not perceive. Unless we focus on a more appropriate response, the obesity epidemic will continue. The real solution would be to control and reduce those forces that are causing the tsunami. Change the cues we are exposed to on a daily basis, or make explicit the cues we cannot change. Only then will people be able to make good use of the swimming lessons they receive, and bring themselves into energy balance according to their individual preferences. Number 8. Turning good ideas into robust innovations requires that the ideas be changed from bare-bones possibilities to something in which investors can see value. Some great ideas are overlooked because their advocates did not provide a sufficiently compelling picture of the potential attractiveness of the innovation. Instead, the advocates hoped that the value would be self-apparent. It seldom is. Or they made inflated projections of the timing and size of the return on the investment, thereby alienating the investors who distrust hype. The process of idea management should include a process step that turns the idea into a sufficiently complete picture in which potential investors can see the real value and risks of investing. This deal-making process resembles the investment process that venture capitalists require for their investments under consideration. Chapter 5. Scientists use paradigms rather than believing them. The use of a paradigm in research typically addresses related problems by employing shared concepts, symbolic expressions, experimental and mathematical tools and procedures, and even some of the same theoretical statements. Scientists need only understand how to use these various elements in ways that others would accept. These elements of shared practice thus need not presuppose any comparable unity in scientists' beliefs about what they are doing when they use them. Indeed, one role of a paradigm is to enable scientists to work successfully without having to provide a detailed account of what they are doing or what they believe about it. Thomas Kuhn noted that scientists can agree in their identification of a paradigm without agreeing on or even attempting to produce a full interpretation or rationalization of it. Lack of a standard interpretation or of an agreed reduction to rules will not prevent a paradigm from guiding research. Number 1. Those making a career in archaeology may initially be drawn to it through popular culture, but they often get hooked in college or university, especially if they have the opportunity to participate in field research. For some professional archaeologists, it is the lifestyle that appeals to them most, letting them spend a significant amount of time outdoors or in a college or university classroom. For many, it is the interesting mix of the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities that is the draw. Others like the detective work or puzzle-solving nature of archaeology. There are some who are drawn for economic reasons, insofar as one can make a decent living doing archaeology. Others may be drawn primarily for the social context, as during fieldwork and laboratory work, archaeologists rarely work alone. Number 2. 3 men are on a deserted island when they find a lamp with a genie in it. After rubbing the lamp, the genie emerges and says, "I will give each of you one wish." The first man says, "I wish I were home," and vanishes immediately. The second man says, "I wish I were home," and also disappears. The third man says, "I miss my friends. I wish they were here." When hearing this joke, we activate our knowledge about genies granting 3 wishes. We also activate desert island stories and how the characters need a rescue. This knowledge tells us that finding the genie is a wonderful opportunity because options for rescue are limited. The first 2 men do as expected in accord with this knowledge. The story becomes funny when the third man violates our expectations. We realize that we thought there was just one possible ending, which wasn't funny, and we are amused that we made a false assumption of only one ending. Number 3. Advances in human longevity make it possible to slow down and even reverse the aging process. In 1900, worldwide life expectancy averaged 31 years. By 1950, it was 48. And in 2010, it had reached 70. Although methods promising to slow down symptoms of aging or even prolong life have already become a billion-dollar industry, most of the products accomplish little, if anything. Most of the industry is driven by vanity and offers nothing more than the chance to appear young. However, AI is making a huge leap forward in pharmaceutical research by discovering ways to slow down or even reverse biological processes such as aging. The enormous profits already enjoyed by the beauty industry for superficial and inefficient products provide a glimpse of the even larger potential market for extending human longevity. Putting a price on the holy grail for longer life will doubtlessly take the pharmaceutical industry to unprecedented heights. Number 4. Increasingly, the news media and popular culture are alerting the public to the heated dialogue that is underway about what our near future might become. Daily, the miraculous scientific predictions and breakthroughs that were once the subject of science fiction are announced as realities. Each new announcement triggers hopes and fears and guarantees further debate among humanitarians, profit seekers, legal experts, ethicists, politicians, and the public. Science and art collaborations could have an important role in this ongoing exploration, creating images that literally give shape to abstract and complex concepts. Working with new languages and images, they raise questions about the social, cultural, ecological, economic, and ethical implications of scientific breakthroughs. The works of many artists informed by science investigate issues and concerns triggered by the modification of nature and provide the public with an opportunity to pay closer attention to advances in science and to reflect upon the boundaries between science and the human imagination. They consider how we shape nature to meet our desires and demands, manipulating genetic makeups and changing the form and productivity of animals and other organisms. Chapter 6. Although cognitive and neuropsychological approaches emphasize the losses with age that might impair social perception, motivational theories indicate that there may be some gains or qualitative changes. Charles and Carstensen review a considerable body of evidence indicating that, as people get older, they tend to prioritize close social relationships, focus more on achieving emotional well-being, and attend more to positive emotional information while ignoring negative information. These changing motivational goals in old age have implications for attention to and processing of social cues from the environment. Of particular importance in considering emotional changes in old age is the presence of a positivity bias. That is, a tendency to notice, attend to, and remember more positive compared to negative information. The role of life experience in social skills also indicates that older adults might show gains in some aspects of social perception. Number 1. Up until the late 1970s, the United States produced at least 70% of the clothing that Americans purchased. And, thanks to the New Deal, for much of the 20th century, brands and manufacturers were expected to follow strict national labor laws. But in the 1980s, a new section of the clothing business cropped up: fast fashion. The production of trendy, inexpensive clothes in vast amounts at lightning speed in subcontracted factories to be sold in thousands of chain stores. To keep prices low, fast fashion brands cut manufacturing costs, and the cheapest labor was available in the world's poorest countries. Offshoring caught on across the industry, just as globalization was unfurling. Though it started as a small corner of the business, fast fashion's remarkable success was so enviable it soon reset the rhythm for how clothing, from luxury to athletic wear, was and is conceived, advertised, and sold. The impact was dramatic. In the last 30 years, fashion has grown from a $500 billion trade, primarily domestically produced, to a $2.4 trillion a year global giant. Number 2. The fact that deep learning computers merely carry out pragmatic functions without understanding what they are doing or any implications has created problems in the past. In particular, many analysts have described a problem of algorithmic bias. The data sets that neural networks train on are representations of the world as it is rather than the world that we might like to see. Because of this, a deep learning algorithm may reproduce the worst stereotypes and biases of our society as a whole. A human, on the other hand, might exercise judgment and question the patterns that he or she was seeing. For example, a deep learning network might see that most of the pictures labeled as secretary in an online archive are female, whereas most pictures of a boss are male, and conclude that men are always bosses and women are always secretaries. Number 3. Assumptions are a reflection of what's going on in one's mind, where we focus our thinking. When our thoughts are voiced to someone else, we now have a great opportunity to learn the person's perception. It is precisely from that perception that change efforts can start. Suppose Alex was thinking, "I'm too old to get that job. They're looking for someone fresh out of school." As a result, Alex did not apply for the teaching position, even though he really wanted it. Suppose he was a great leader who could turn that school around, but his lack of initiative created a lose-lose for him and for the school district. What if instead he recognized he had unique experiences from his prior roles that could indeed be of true value? If he'd been willing to challenge his own assumption, he might have taken action, with confidence, and pursued his goal. Stories like this happen too often. They hinder progress and inhibit organizations from achieving their goals. They cause individuals to remain locked in their self-imposed boundaries. Number 4. Physicians claim that a lot of what they do is intuitive. It is reasoning through the associations built over years of practice. But when AI scientists work on the problem of medical diagnosis, their effort is to see the diagnostic process as a set of explicit procedures that can be captured in a program. AI experts attack the problem by interviewing a physician over the course of months, trying to pin down every aspect of how he or she makes decisions. They model the structure of what that practical knowledge which feels intuitive. The resulting program will, given the same information as the physician, usually come to the same conclusion. The process of writing such programs has a side effect. If the program thinks, henceforth like the physician, the physician's thinking about his or her activity has been changed by collaboration in the making of the program. What once seemed intuitive to the physician has been shown to be formalizable. Chapter 7. The table above shows 7 U.S. states ranked by the number of workers added in the solar industry between 2015 and 2020, and provides information on the corresponding growth percentage in each state. During this period, Florida, which ranked first with regard to the number of workers added, exhibited 71% growth. The number of workers added in Utah was more than twice the number of workers added in Minnesota. Regarding Texas and Virginia, each state showed less than 50% growth. New York added more than 1,900 workers, displaying 24% growth. Among these 7 states, Pennsylvania added the lowest number of workers during this period. Number 1. The graph above shows Americans' opinions of major factors affecting their trust in research findings in 2019. The percentage of people who responded they trusted scientific research findings more was highest when the researchers made their data publicly available. More than half of those who responded said they trusted the research findings more when they heard it was reviewed by an independent committee. Hearing the research was funded by the federal government reflected the smallest percentage gap between those who said they trusted the research findings more and those who said they trusted them less. If research was funded by an industry group, 58% of the respondents said they were less likely to trust its findings, and only 1/10 said they were more likely to trust its findings. When they knew the research was funded by the federal government, the lowest percentage of people said it made no difference. Number 2. The above graph shows the percentage of women in selected STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, occupations, from 1960 to 2019. The percentage of female biological scientists steadily increased throughout the period, with the exception of a dip in 1980. The percentage of women who had computer and mathematical occupations peaked at 35% in 1990, and then dropped to 26% in 2010. Until 1990, the percentage of women with computer and mathematical occupations was higher than that of female chemists and material scientists, but in 2000, the latter surpassed the former. In the period between 2000 and 2010, the percentage of women in STEM occupations increased except for engineers. The percentage of female chemists and material scientists increased from 8% in 1960 to 43% in 2019, the largest percentage point gap of all four occupation types between 1960 and 2019. Number 3. The above graph shows the share of online transactions via mobile app, mobile website, and desktop in 2018 by region. Compared to desktop transactions, mobile transactions dominated in Asia and the Pacific, 75% of all online transactions. In Africa and the Middle East, 70%, as well as in North America, 67%. In Europe, transactions on mobile devices did not exceed those made on desktops. Mobile transactions were less common in Latin America than in Europe, with 50% of transactions made on desktop computers. In Asia and the Pacific, Africa and the Middle East, and North America, a lower rate of transactions was observed on mobile websites than on mobile apps. In Europe, the difference between the rate of transactions on mobile apps and mobile websites was only 3 percentage points. Number 4. The table above shows the top 10 countries for forest area in the world in 2020. The 10 countries with the largest forest area in the world accounted for about 2/3, 66%, of the world total. Only 5 countries, the Russia Federation, Brazil, Canada, the United States of America, and China, constituted more than half of the world's forest area. Making up 20% of the world's forest area, the Russian Federation had the largest forest area in the world, larger than the percentage of Brazil and Peru combined. Australia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo had more than 100 million acres of forest area each, and together had 6% of the world forest area in total. The forest area in India in 2020 was estimated at 72 million hectares, which was 10 million less than that of Indonesia. Chapter 8. Wing Cheese Factory Tour. Attention all cheese lovers! Come and experience our historic cheese-making process at the Wing Cheese Factory. Look around, taste, and make. Participation: adults $30, children $10, ages 3 and under free. The fee includes cheese tasting and making. Sign up for the tour at www.cheesewcf.com by June 30th. Tour schedule: 10 a.m. Watch a video about the factory's history. 10:30 a.m. Factory tour and cheese tasting. 11:30 a.m. cheese making. Note: participants can buy a cheese-shaped keychain for $15. No photography is allowed inside the factory. We are closed on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. Number 1. Latimeria is a large fish, up to 1.8 meters in length and weighing as much as 98 kilograms. The body is covered by large scales. It feeds on fishes, squids, and octopuses. This living fossil is unique in many ways. It has heavy, stalked fins that have bones as tetrapods do. The fish appears to stand on the fins, but not to crawl over the bottom with them, as once thought. The pectoral fins can rotate nearly 180 degrees, allowing the fish to swim slowly over the bottom, sometimes standing on its head or with its belly up. Jelly-filled organs on the head could be used to detect electrical fields and thus help in prey location. Little is known about its reproduction. Females bear live young, as many as 26, and the huge eggs, about 9 centimeters in diameter, develop in the reproductive tract, apparently for at least a year. Number 2. Alfred Adler was born in Vienna in 1870. After a severe case of pneumonia at the age of 5 and the death of a younger brother, he committed himself to becoming a doctor. He studied medicine at the University of Vienna and qualified in 1895. In 1898, he published a medical study, Health Book for the Tailor Trade, on the health and working conditions experienced by tailors, and the following year met Sigmund Freud. Adler remained involved with the Vienna Psychoanalytical Society until 1911, but in 1912 broke away with 8 others to form the Society of Individual Psychology. Adler's career was put on hold during the First World War, when he worked in a military hospital. After the war, he opened the first of 22 pioneering clinics around Vienna for children's mental health. When the authorities closed the clinics in 1932, because Adler was a Jew, he emigrated to the United States, taking up a professorship at the Long Island College of Medicine. His public lectures in Europe and the U.S. had made him well known. Adler suddenly died in 1937 of a heart attack. Number 3. Illustrators of the Future Contest. Here comes the Illustrators of the Future Contest, the oldest and most influential contest in the field of science fiction and fantasy artwork. Submit your science fiction and fantasy illustrations to win. Rules. Illustrations about any science fiction and fantasy themes are acceptable. 2. Entries must consist of 3 color or black and white illustrations in any medium. 3. Entries are judged by professional artists. 4. Computer-generated art and photography and illustrations are accepted. 5. Contestants retain all publication rights. 6. The contest is free to enter. The contest will run from June 1st through August 30th. Visit www.illustratorsofthefuture.com for any contest rule updates. Number 4. Solar Eclipse Viewing Event. A rare solar eclipse is happening on Monday, August 23rd, and the Nashville Science Museum is one of the best spots to view it from. Museum schedule for August 23rd. 10 a.m. Museum opens. The first 150 guests will receive a solar eclipse glasses. 11:58 a.m. The moon will start its path across the sun. 1:15 p.m. Museum guides will explain total solar eclipses in front of the museum. 1:27 p.m. to 1:29 p.m. The eclipse will be total. 1:29 p.m. to 3:54 p.m. The moon will finish passing over the sun. Important notes. Bring your own chairs to watch the eclipse on the museum lawn. Outside food and beverages are not allowed inside the museum. There are vending machines in the museum. Number 5. Princess Daisy Interactive Doll. From feeding to diapering and beyond, Princess Daisy gives you a real-life nurturing experience. Product information. Recommended for girls and boys 3 years and older. Has over 80 lifelike movements, expressions, and real baby sounds. Requires 4 AA batteries, not provided. Includes a removable outfit, a blanket, and a bottle with disappearing milk. Instructions. To turn on Princess Daisy, press and hold the power button on her left hand until she says hi. Princess Daisy talks back to you when you call her name, naps when you rock her gently, and laughs when you tickle her. Warning: small parts could pose a serious safety hazard. Only the included bottle should be used with Princess Daisy. Princess Daisy is not intended for bath time play. Do not put her underwater. Number 6. The Winter Dance is a renewal ceremony performed by the Salish people on the Colville Reservation north of Spokane, Washington. It is intended to produce heavy rains to water the root crops. The Winter Dance is performed for 4 days, from 8 in the evening until 9 in the morning. The first day is usually for family. By the 4th day, there may be as many as 100 or 150 people in attendance. A shaman chooses the location of the ceremony. It is held in a single room. There is a pool made of pine in the middle of the room that extends from the floor to the ceiling. No one touches the pine pole except for the singers, who begin to sing very slowly, one at a time, in no set order. As time passes, the pace of the singing becomes faster, and people get up to dance. Number 7. The tilaka, a mark made on the forehead by Hindus, is worn by men and women in South Asia and in South Asian immigrant communities to demonstrate religious belief, either in special ritual occasions or on every day, and by both priests and lay people. Like the bindi, the tilaka symbolizes the third eye and spiritual enlightenment. Traditionally, the tilaka has most commonly red, but today it can be found in multiple colors and can be made of sandalwood paste, ashes, clay, or herbs. Different sects, as well as different castes, may wear different colors, and the mark may appear either round or as a line down the forehead and nose. Adherents of the god Shiva wear the tilaka as a series of horizontal lines across the forehead, bisected by a vertical line or circle. Unlike the bindi, which can be bought as a sticker or form of jewelry, the tilaka must always be made of paste or powder. Number 8. I want to run 20 kilometers relay. If you want to run with your friends, but it's hard to meet the schedule, join us and run 20 kilometers for the I Want to Run relay. The cool thing about the relay is you can be anywhere in the world. Here's how it works. 1. Make a team of 4 people who can run 5 kilometers each. 2. Come up with a team name. Puns are always appreciated. 3. Select a team captain who is willing to sign up the team. 4. Download the relay timing app and log your movement. Then, any time between April 6th and April 18th, each team member simply runs 5 kilometers, 3.1 miles, wherever you are, and other people aren't, of course. You can run it on a track, around your neighborhood, on a treadmill, wherever you want. Then submit your time on the website. Registration fee, $10 per team. Registration fee includes a t-shirt for each runner. Please visit www.iwantorunrelay.com to learn more about the relay. Number 9. Central Square Pool Rental. Central Square offers private pool rentals for all types of events, birthday parties, church or family events, and swim team organizations. A community room is also available for rent, perfect for pizza and cake. The Splash Pool and Rainbow Pool are available during the summer season for private rentals. Participants can enjoy free Wi-Fi access anywhere at the pools. Visit us online at www.csppool.com cspool.org for more information. Reservations and fees. Reservations must be made at least 2 weeks in advance. Reservations are accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. The number of pools is limited, so register early. In the event of cancellation, notice must be given no later than 24 hours prior to the rental. No refunds will be made after this time. Number 10. Tripon University Virtual Dance and Cheer Team Camps. The upcoming Tripon University Virtual Dance and Cheer Team Camps are geared toward children ages 6 to 12. The dance team will host their Stormtroopers Virtual Dance Camp on Sunday, February 27th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The cheer team will host their Little Bolts Virtual Cheer Camp on Sunday, March 13th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The camps will be hosted remotely from Tripon University, with participants receiving a site link and password upon registration. Each camp costs $20 per participant, with a $5 discount available for those who sign up for both camps. Registration can be done by phone or online. The deadline for registration is Friday, February 25th for the dance camp and Friday, March 11th for the cheer camp.